Let me get everybody in here. In here, in here, in here. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Sorry, it's been one of those kind of days. Get myself all ready to go. Let me see who's in here. Are my sisters here? Oh, they are here. Sisters, I have to go there next Tuesday. I believe it's like the first week of December. I have a meeting with them. I will keep you posted, okay? Tuesday next week, I believe it is the first week of December. I told him, don't call me back there to pay for copies. So I got some news, but not until Thursday, the first week of December. I want to say it's the 4th, but I don't think that's the day. So that's why I'm being a little reserved. All right. Good morning, everybody. Hello. How are you? Widget is here. Thought we talk about a few things. I know we see the changes coming to statewide rent control through Senate Bill 547, I think it is. Don't quote me to that. This has to do with mostly statewide rent control and the changes that'll be happening to our statewide rent control. That would be AB 1482 and those properties that are governed by that. They're putting in some more caveats for us as far as doing major renovations. Okay, there's new rules regarding major renovations. They really scare me, just so you know, because how some of us have been utilizing that as a way to get the tenants out, although that's not really what we're doing. You're going to find that coming back and biting you. These changes start April 1st of next year. They're no joke. They say that if you ask a tenant to move out for major renovations or for a family member to move in and they don't occupy the property for the allotted amount of time, you as a landlord have to let the tenant come back into the unit at the same old rent rate they were paying. So there's new rules in regards to landlord move-ins or family member move-ins. You now have to put the name of the family member in full that'll be occupying the premises on the notice. If they don't occupy the premises for, and don't quote me to this because my brain says 3 years because I'm used to LA City's rules, okay? So forgive me. But if you don't occupy it for the scheduled amount of time, you would then have to allow the tenant to move back in at the old rent that they were paying. So with that said, they're adding more caveats into our playing field, but we knew that was going to happen. Remember in the beginning when the DCBA said, oh, if you're registered with us for the first year, we'll even pay for your registration. As soon as everybody got registered, as soon as all this started, then they started changing the rules. That's how they do things, okay? Bait and switch. That's what they did. They baited us in to register and sign up, and then they changed the rules. Nothing we can do about it. We're a victim of the system. We just have to play along. So just want to touch bases with you, let you know that there are changes coming up April 1st to the statewide rent control initiative, also known as AB 1482, also known as California Civil Code 1946.2, also known as the Tenant Protection Act. So there's new rules being implemented through the Tenant Protection Act that we need to be aware of. For those of us in the Inland Empire area, Riverside, Ontario, San Bernardino, right in that Inland Empire. And the best way I could describe it to you is a 30-mile radius around Ontario International Airport. Because it's an international airport, it's a metropolis. So we are now capped at how much we can increase rents at 9.6% and not a penny higher. Okay, it's the only thing we have as far as rent control goes for single family dwellings in San Bernardino County. Took me a while to spit that one out. I got to be careful because there is rent control in Palm Springs, but it's usually in mobile home parks. As far as Riverside County, there isn't a city that has an ordinance yet. Orange County, we have Santa Ana, and both Irvine and Huntington Beach are now talking about implementing rent control. Why would they put rent control in the city of Irvine? Anybody know? I know. They got really high rents. They don't want them to go any higher. That's all. All right. Anybody have anything for me? There is usually a difference between single family house and condos. Do the new rules differentiate between the two, and is San Diego different? This is what we're talking about is statewide rent control. So it doesn't matter if it's San Diego, Sacramento, or downtown LA. If you're governed by the statewide rent control, that is what we're talking about. That is where the changes are coming in regards to adding the family member's name to the notice that's going to be moving in. And the other one is about major renovations and pulling it off the market for major renovations. It's really got to be major, you guys. You can't use it as a loophole or a tactic to gain possession. It will bite you. I left a message right at the beginning of the meeting. I'm sorry, I thought you were on regarding Erin and my sisters. I have a meeting with them on Thursday. I don't know what it's about. If it's to pay them more money to make copies, I'm going to get out my gun.
So when you say a meeting with them, who are you talking about?
Thursday. Yes, Thursday. I have a meeting with them on Thursday. I want to say it's the 4th, but I don't have a calendar in front of me, so I don't want to give you the date, but it's Thursday next week, not this week like tomorrow, next week.
So can they extort you by charging more for serving a client that's more difficult to find?
They can't extort me. Make sense?
I know. Well,
I hope that makes sense. They can't extort me.
Okay. Whatever it costs.
I understand, but I just want it to be done so we can continue to move forward, get in the fight the fight, and then get going at it.
Thank you.
You got it. Okay, sorry, you guys. When we go through a battle, and I help you through the battle, I actually feel like I'm part of the war with you. And when we win, I feel like we're all winning, okay? So forgive me for being a little bit emotional with my sisters and having this connection, but you wait until you and me go through a battle, because that's what we went through. She's nodding her head, yes. It wasn't a war, it was a battle. And it was, yep, boom, 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 boom. And we just kept getting it over and over and over again. We got possession, and now we're going after the money she extorted out of the landlord by holding her investment property hostage against her during the pandemic when she didn't even live there. Okay, she didn't even live there. She was holding the unit hostage, just going there to do her laundry. She was using it as a laundromat at the owner's expense during the COVID pandemic. Not on my watch. So we got possession, and now we're going after her right here at the jugular. Because it's not cool what some people did to our landlords during the pandemic. Okay, here comes my questions. West Hollywood rent increase. Are we allowed to increase starting September of 2023? No. I have to see what West Hollywood is, if it falls under LARSO or City of LA rules. You're frozen until January 2024. I wouldn't send out the notices until it expires. Let me explain, okay? If you serve a notice while they're protected, does that make the notice void? Oh. If you serve a notice to raise their rent while they're still protected, does that void your notice? Can't answer that. It's a question for your legal counsel, but I want to avoid that argument, especially if you're in LA County. We don't like arguments. We don't like them to have ammunition, okay? We want a square block room with no windows, no way to escape. With that being said, if you're playing around in the devil's cauldron, don't give any room for argument. Wait until it is free and clear on February 1st to serve the rent increase notice to take effect in March. I know you don't want to hear that from me, but I'm trying to get you to err on the side of caution. If they're still protected, how are you serving a notice? And I'm not talking about legalities, I'm talking about ethics. Okay, I'm not talking about legalities, I'm talking about ethics. If they are protected until January 31st, wouldn't you serve them a notice on February 1 to avoid? Sorry, you guys, somebody tried to call me. Wouldn't you serve it on February 1st to try to avoid any argument and litigation later down the road as to when you raise the rent? Especially dealing in LA County, I don't like to give the tenant's attorney any ammunition against me. I want to keep it as cut and dry, as simple and as clean as it can possibly be. And it's not just me. I'm sure you guys have had conversations with your legal counsel where they've had you reverse a rent increase that wasn't allowed at the time, and you've had to credit the ledger. You've had to remove late fees from your ledgers sometimes. And I see Ed going, yeah. We're trying to protect you from unwanted litigation. Makes sense? If everybody's arguing about late fees and it's this big issue in courts in LA County right now, why would you go into court with late fees on your ledger? Makes sense? And I'm going to tell you guys this, I said it in the AGLA webinar yesterday, please stop getting mad at your law firm, at your legal counsel, at your apartment association, whomever you're calling to get direction on what needs to be on the notice, how the notice needs to be done. We're just as frustrated as you guys are. The rules keep changing just as often as they can change, and we're having to implement those changes as well. Ed will agree with me. The 3-day notice itself has changed more times in the last 6 months than it has in the last 10 years. Agree with that statement? Because in LA City, you now have to have a place to list how many bedrooms are on there. The 3 days can't count weekends, the holidays, or judicial holidays. The this, the that, please don't get upset with them when they come back to you and tell you your notice is invalid. You need to use a new template. The rules were changing that quickly. Okay, they are. I mean, here I'm telling you, what do you mean we have new rules for statewide rent control? Didn't we deal with all that last year? Yeah, they're back again and changing the playing field. Okay, it's something that evolves. It never stops. It's constantly moving and constantly changing, okay? And I know it's frustrating to you because it's just as frustrating to me. When I get ready to serve a notice, I wait for it to expire. I send it to my legal counsel and they tell me, oh, the rules change. You can't use this anymore. Now I just wasted 60 days. And look at Ed. He's sitting there laughing, you guys, because he knows I'm right. We wasted 60 days and now we have to do it again. And it makes us so angry and so frustrated. But please know your legal counsel, your attorney, your apartment association is trying to keep you out of costly litigation. If you do everything right at hello and all your ducks are lined in a row and everything's perfect, there's less likelihood for you to get involved in litigation later. Agree with that, Ed? Do you see that happen in your business practice? How many heavily litigated cases do you have, Ed? I'm just curious.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I don't have any heavily litigated because we follow the advice of the apartment associations and the law firms and Patty.
And it's frustrating. You'll agree with me when you serve the notice, you serve it, time expires, and then you give it back to them and they go, no, no, no. So he gets just as frustrated as I do. I get just as frustrated as you do. But just know that your team, the people you hired to protect you, are trying to do that. So stop arguing with them when they are trying to protect you. You may not like the answer they're giving you, but they genuinely are trying to protect you.
Right.
I had an AGLA advisor call me and be like, Patty, I got yelled at. I told them to do it this way because that's what the rules were. But then the rules changed. I'm like, it happens to me all the time. Don't get upset about it. Just explain to them that the rules keep changing. There's not a whole lot we can do about it. You know, change with the rules or get steamrolled, one or the other. All right. I just wanted everybody to understand we are just as frustrated as you are. I promise you. This wind blowing and laws changing is gotta go. It's a little much at times. All right, let me see what else we got because I thought, oh, yep, we got some more stuff coming through. So we talked about West Hollywood rent increases. We got to know, Melanie, you can go to stayhousedla.org, type in the address. It kind of helps you with figuring that out. Either here. Oh, I want to know what happened at the court hearing, Melanie. So call me when this is over. Sorry. I don't know what WEHO, sorry, we are allowed. They have started September. I don't know what that means, but let me know when this is over and we can chat. I think it's the effective date, not when you served. But if you served it while they were protected, is that unethical? Ed? What's your opinion?
I missed that. Well, what's the question again?
If you can't do a rent increase in any particular city until February 1st, when do you serve the notice? I'm just asking, do you serve the notice on February 1st or do you serve it on January 1st to take effect in February?
That's a very good question. We've been doing the latter, which is serving it prior to the February 1st so that it goes into effect February 1st.
We've done that for decades. That's how we've ran our practices. I don't know if we're going to need to change that. You see, Ed's doing it too. We don't know if we're going to need to change that. There's only one way to find out, and it's by trial and error. And it's expensive and costly. So if the only way to figure it out is by trial and error, is it really going to affect you that much by waiting for 30 more days?
It's not the way that my approach to it is we do it ahead of time. If the tenant,
I agree.
If the tenant throws a fuss about it or even just mentions, hey, you know, you're not allowed to do it, we'll probably talk to the owner and say, hey, you know what, let's rescind that notice, send it again. We're not here to battle anybody. We're trying to do it, you know, as nicely as we can. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, we'll just postpone it for 30 days. No big deal.
Okay, so Ed's willing to take the risk of postponing. Remember, we have the anti-harassment law in LA City also. So I don't want to utilize that tactic in the city of LA. I would rather back up, wait patiently 30 days. You guys, we've waited 4 years. 30 days is not going to kill us, okay? But it's just a better way to make sure that we are rock solid and we're not taking a risk. Okay, I agree with Ed, but at the same time, you see his face when he's going, yeah, we just don't know until we try it with the new way that.
I don't own the properties. If I own the properties, I'd wait another month. And, you know, but we have owners who are very eager to increase their rents.
Absolutely.
We
Absolutely.
tell them, hey, look, we'll do it, but there's a chance. And, you know, if someone claims harassment, we'll apologize. We'll say it's a mistake and, you know, it's fine.
We rescinded the notice. I rescinded.
Right.
So yeah, just a couple things that you need to think about. Gotta make sure we're keeping good ethics in here, okay? It's something they're starting to ding in that with the anti-harassment stuff. So we just gotta be careful. Okay, let's see what else we got. Hang on. Update you. I think it's effective date, not when you serve. I understand what you're saying, J Tour, but what I'm saying is it is unethical for you to serve a notice increasing rents while the tenants are still protected from a rent increase. Hi, Patty. My 2 units built after 2006 in City of Los Angeles. I sent 3-day notice and amount owed $6,700, but tenant paid a portion of $4,000. Okay, so you can serve them a notice on the difference as long as you're above threshold rent. What did I just say in simple English? How many bedrooms is the unit, Mike? If they're over threshold rent on the balance, then serve them on the balance. When you say serve the rent increase postmarked on the 1st rather than posted on the property. And if February is 29 days, then that means it's got to be 30 days. Yep. Yep, you got it, Melanie. And when I say serve the rent increase, whenever I do a rent increase or a termination of tenancy, I'm always going to try personal service and certified mail. So when we say you have 10 days to fix XYZ, starting on the 5th of the month, is that just Monday through Friday? Correct. Correct. You can't, here we go. Okay. The law changed. In the expiration of a notice, to pay rent or quit, or to cure or quit, has to be court days. If it's a 30-day, a 60-day, or a 90-day, it's straight days. Okay, it's not court holidays. It's if you're giving somebody a 90-day notice on January 1st, they're there for January, they're there for February, they're there for March, they got to be gone by April 1. Did I do that right? January, February, March, I did. So that's what I mean by that. Let me go back because there was something else I saw and it sparked a little thing in my head. 4-bedroom. So a 4-bedroom, are you in LA City? Mike? Yes, you are. City of Los Angeles. Anybody know off the top of their whole head what threshold rent is for a 4-bedroom? A 2-bedroom is $2,222. A 3-bedroom is $2,888. I don't know how much a 4-bedroom is. Anybody? Oh, $3,170. There you go. When your tenant owes the balance of $3,170, then you can serve them with a new 3-day, but not until then. Okay? That answers that question. Yay! And I don't know what I clicked on or where you guys went. Here we go. How am I getting in this weird screen? I don't know, but I do love it. I do love it at all. Okay, here we go. More chatting. 4-bedroom, and that balance owed is not rent owed, but it is a deposit. Then Mike, you're going to have to talk to your legal counsel. You're probably going to have to do it as a curable breach of covenant off the top of my head. If a deposit isn't paid, that's a cure or quit notice, also known as a cure or breach of covenant. And I believe under LA City law currently, that's a 30-day cure or quit notice. So you would serve a cure or quit notice. You can always call your legal counsel or your apartment association to help you figure out exactly what notice needs to be used. All right. So when we say you have 10 days to fix this starting on the 5th of the month, is that just Monday through Friday? Yes, it is. That would be your 10 days. No holidays counted. Thank you, Melanie, for helping me. You guys are all awesome. Everybody helps me. Arlene's a big help too. You guys all are. It's awesome. LARSO, we have a building with RUBS system and one tenant has not paid his portion of the utilities. Which notice do we serve? You're looking at a 30-day cure or quit for monetary damages. Ed's nodding his head. I had to think about that. But it's a 30-day.
Another way to handle that is just let it be and then just deduct it from their deposit when they move out. But the risk in that is that it could, exceed the amount of the deposit eventually. So.
Well, and when you get them in LARSO, they probably have so many deductions against their deposit that you could probably buy a new house with what they owe you by the time they vacate. I'm just playing. Yeah. And he's right. In City of LA, rather than argue that they owe the money, it's easier to slap it against their deposit. Because everything is just.
Let's say you served them a 30-day notice. What did you call it, Patty? A 30-day.
A cure or quit. Right. Curable breach of covenant.
Okay, so they owe you, let's say $50, $100, even $500 for utilities. Are you now going to go spend $1,000 on an attorney to collect $500? You're not. $2,400. That's a different story than maybe. But
So
I mean, again, what I'm trying to say is you want to
risk versus reward.
exactly. You're not going to
Risk.
throw $1,000 to go over 20 over after $50 or even $500.
Well, you might if your nose is bent, meaning somebody upset you, splitting hairs. I see a lot of that going on. If you're in LA, you got to take that mentality and throw it out the window. Those days of combat management are gone. Okay. I will no longer do my own eviction and lock the tenant out when they go to work. Okay. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
20 years ago, yeah. Today, things are changing. We have to change with it if we don't want to get steamrolled. And I agree with Ed. So let me share with you guys my thing, okay? You know when a tenant moves out and they owe money to you? I have a number. I guarantee you Ed has a number. I guarantee you everybody out there has a number. My number is $1,000. If my tenant moves out and owes me less than $1,000, I let it go. If they owe me more than $1,000, well, that's worth my butt getting up and getting into court is how I look at it. If it's less than $1,000, it's not worth my time.
That's true, because it's not only the money, it's okay, now you're going to court, you're going to spend a day in court. How much time is that worth? How much is your time worth? Take your hourly rate times 8 or whatever hours it is, driving there, the gas, the parking. It's too much of a hassle. It's not.
The case filing, the time you missed in your office. Let's take this all the way through to the fence. And then for what? To get a wage garnishment against them that they're never going to pay you for $500.
Right. You also
be-
risk that. You also risk getting countersued for something.
Yes, you do. And I would suggest talking to your CPA, figuring out how to write off the loss on your taxes. That's going to be more beneficial for you than anything else. Hope that makes sense. All right. Anybody have anything else they want to talk about? Oh, well, I see more questions coming through. Thank you. They owe $2,400. Just a scare tactic at least. Well, it depends. You got to be really careful with those scare tactics because like Ed said, they can just countersue you back. I mean, you don't want to poke the tenant in the eye for $500 for them to turn around and sue you for an unlawful eviction.
Right.
Makes
And
sense?
if you are going all the way, then make sure you have all your ducks in a row first before
And the number one place to make sure all your ducks are in a row before you poke them in the eye isn't with your attorney or the courthouse. Where is it? Ed's thinking. Ed's thinking. Oh, I hear them wheels squeaking.
What is that? What is that? You said where's the first way to check it?
If you want to cover your asset before you file an eviction, you're not checking with your attorney and your legal counsel. Who are you calling to cover your asset?
Your files? You check your files? You check with yourself?
Your insurance company. You want to make sure policy's up to date, that you have unlawful eviction coverage, wrongful termination coverage. No, that's not it. It's unlawful eviction, loss of rents, and that's what we recommend for landlord policies. And make sure you're not paying for belongings, for personal belonging coverage. So in your house you live in, you pay on your premium for your personal belongings if there was a fire, a flood, God only knows, okay? You pay additional monies, probably an additional $500 to $600 or more a year to be able to have that coverage on your personal belongings. If you have a rental, that is not your personal belongings in the property and not your problem. Oh, so you can change it to a landlord policy and save yourself about $500 or $600 a year on that policy by switching it to a landlord policy. Make sure you have unlawful eviction coverage, loss of rent coverage, and anything else your agent can recommend to help you better protect your asset. Okay, very important. We have coverages in place before we go poke people in the eye. We don't want to have the back door wide open. Make sense? Let's go poke him in the eye, leave the back door open and see if he comes in. And what does he bring? A baseball bat, a 12 gauge? We'll find out. So don't go poking people in the eye without making sure your ducks are in a row. And like Ed said, he doesn't have heavily litigated cases.
Yeah, I mean, our best tactic is to try to avoid going to legal if we can. We try to resolve things amicably if we can. It's just, if I was in Vegas or Texas or somewhere where the laws are not so pro tenant, I would do things differently. Unfortunately here, trying to.
I mean, that's why I started Widget's Way, was to teach landlords how to stay out of legal trouble. I don't like litigation either. And I'll be honest with you, and Ed's going to agree with this on me. I'm almost certain, we'll see. When it comes time to pick up the phone and call the attorney and send the case file to them, do you think you failed as a property manager? Because I do.
Yeah.
That's impressive,
Yeah.
you guys. We feel like we failed. I can't fix this on my own. We got to call the professional. That is.
And the sad thing, Patty, is that even when I call the professionals, sometimes they're unable to solve the problem because of the rules are just so. Am I allowed to say effed up on this? Yeah.
You can say whatever you want. I told a client on the phone earlier today, I said, well, yeah, with the bureaucracy and bullshit going on. And they're like, I can't believe you said that. And I was like, well, I don't provide housing to you, so I can say whatever I want to. I don't provide you housing. See,
Right.
I get to say everything you want to say, and you can't because you are a housing provider. I'm not.
Right.
I can put on that hat and pretend I am. And I am a housing provider. I have rental property, but I'm not in the limelight, so to speak, with all of what you guys face on a daily. Ed, also watch out, Fair Housing is running in full force and they're cold calling and then following up with secret shoppers. The cues to watch for those are concessions. They're still using that template. Thank you. This call was for marketing purposes. They're specifically making sure that corporate America is following fair housing rules and guidelines. And they're still asking about ESA animals within the first 4 questions. Anybody else that needs to know what I just said, or if that's clicking with you, please know fair housing was off for 4 years during the COVID pandemic. They are back and they are in full force with a 4-year budget underneath them. And they are going after corporate America. They're calling the companies. It's not the mom and pop they're attacking. They're going after corporate America. They want to make sure during the pandemic, everybody didn't forget the rules and they're not discriminating. So they're starting with corporate America. So because Ed runs a corporation, I just thought I'd give him a heads up so he can give his staff a heads up, because sometimes it's nice to know what questions they ask, so that when you think you have them on the phone, you're extra careful to make sure you're giving the right information. But we're so, forgive me, robotic with the information that we provide. It's just robotic sometimes. So sometimes we sound like robots on the phone, but it's just because we say the same sentence 35 times a day. Well, you have 42 hours after your application was approved to bring in the deposit money. And then, I mean, these are all statements that we make all the time. So we're very familiar with them. I'm just letting you guys know. What is this new law starting April? J Tour, they are adapting or amending statewide rent control. AB 1482 is being amended to add additional protections for tenants, and additional rules regarding owner move-ins, family move-ins, and major renovations. And that starts April 1st. Will your company provide this cure or quit notice for deposit owed in the amount of $3,500 and need to go through eviction in City of LA? What do you suggest, to hire an attorney or just deal with it? It's on the security deposit, Mike Lamb. And did you increase the deposit? I'm going to make it easy. If you don't want to unmute yourself and talk, which I'm fine with, because I get that. Some people get stage fright. How do you think I feel? I'm being funny. Why don't you give me a call at Fast Evictions when this is over? That number is 909 889-2000, 909-889-2000, and I'd be more than happy to help you figure out if it's worth going after or not. And there's new laws regarding AB 1482. They start April 1st. It has to do with major renovations, and you really have to do major renovations, okay? Family member move in, how long they have to move in, and if they don't, what the consequences are to the landlord. Because yes, there will be consequences to the landlord in the event that they don't comply with the new adjustments with California's statewide rent control, or the AB 1482 Tenant Protection Act, however you want to call it. All right, anybody have anything else?
Patty, I have a question.
What you got?
When renting a house with a pool, are there special requirements or verbiage that I need to watch out for on the lease agreement? And can I charge for them to, or put in the lease that they're supposed to maintain it or pay for the pool maintenance and all that?
The number one thing that you want to make sure you're doing is reporting that there's no lifeguard on duty. I know it sounds ridiculously stupid, but when you're dealing with a single family residence and you have to worry about minors being able to swim or not being able to swim, the lifeguard on duty is the big one for you. Now, I've had people tell me time and time again that residential pools need to be cross-fenced. Okay, watch yourself. Yes, commercially and in multifamily, residential pools must be cross-fenced, but we're talking about an apartment community. We're not talking about a single family home. So for the most part, under California state law, what that law says is that it must be completely closed in and lockable away from view of the public. So if you have a pool, you need a 6-foot fence all the way around the property. And if you have fencing along the edges and the back of the property where the pool is, you don't have to put in extra fencing. Does that make sense to you? I get a lot of people that say, oh no, the tenant told me that it has to be cross-fenced because she has kids. Bullshit. If she wants it cross-fenced because she has kids, then what I would do is ask her if she wanted to make that modification to the property at her expense. You would try to get permission from the landlord.
Another thing I recommend with pools, just make sure that the insurance covers it.
Yep, and make sure that the tenant has insurance with a higher liability coverage. That is a requirement that you can make at inception of the lease. So let me explain. For most of our tenants, we require that they have $500,000 in liability insurance. Agreed? Yeah, close, 500,000-600,000. If there's a pool at the property, you could ask for a higher liability on their policy. Okay, that's how that works. All right. Renting out a garage separately becomes a commercial lease. Hold on, J-Tour. Hold on. Are you renting out a garage as an ADU or as a garage? And yes, I know I'm being nitpicky, but I'm just trying as a garage. So you are renting out garage space as a garage. Yep, commercial or a license agreement. AGLA has such a thing. And I believe they use it as a parking license agreement. I tried to explain what a license is versus what a rental agreement is. So a license, if I could explain to you, is giving you permission to do something for a price. Example, when you go to Disneyland, it costs $60 to park, right? It may not be 60 by now, but let's just go with my number. It's freaking close. They charge you $60 to park, and they give you a little thing saying that you have a license to park your car there for that day because you paid for that. That's how a license works. You may have a monthly fee to park your vehicle there. It's a license. It's not a rental agreement. Okay? Rental agreement means it comes with protections for tenants. A lot of people are using commercial contracts for their parking agreements or their storage agreements at this point so that their storage and their parking fees are not subject to rent control ordinances. And that's the why behind it, because commercial isn't subject to that. I will say this, please pay attention. I said this yesterday in the AGLA webinar, but I'll say it again. Please, I beg you. And in the event you have residential property with an attached garage, you cannot charge them additional rent for something that's attached to the residential property. Example, if you can walk through the garage and go right into your kitchen or your house or the living room or whatever, then you have an interior door that connects you. Don't lock it off, bolt it off, and try to change it just so you can go after the extra rent. Just know it doesn't work for that type of a property. Period. End of report. Don't try to figure out a way to make it work because it doesn't work that way. Okay? If you have an interior door connecting the garage to the property, it is together and you cannot separate it. Okay? If you don't have that, then you can do separate rent for the garage, storage, etc. I hope that makes sense. A lot of people that have interior doors connecting into the house are trying to do separate commercial rent for that, but it's connected to the unit with an interior door. So it just won't work when you get into court or into any kind of litigation. So don't even try it. If it's connected, done, next idea, that didn't work, okay? It's that simple. Don't try to reinvent the wheel, okay? It's not gonna happen. Attorneys have been working at this for a long time, so don't spin your wheels trying to figure it out. I'll just tell you, if you have an interior door connecting your garage to your residential dwelling, they are all one unit. Don't get any bright ideas on bolting it off or changing it, or because then you're going down a different rabbit hole that causes you another problem. Like it may be a building and safety issue if you block off that door and then you're blocking a fire exit. You didn't even think about that. So don't try to figure it out or come up with the best new plan. Just know that if you have a garage connected with an interior door to a residential dwelling, they are one and the same and you cannot separate them. That's the easiest way I could say it. And if you don't like that, do a 1031 tax exchange and buy something that you do like. Okay? I hate to say it that way, but I'm so sick of hearing, I don't like the rules in the city that I bought my property in. Well, then sell and go somewhere else. I understand. I have this problem too. I don't like the rules the city throws at me in the middle of the night, but I'm along for the ride with the rest of us. Does anybody have anything else they want to discuss? Because I dressed for winter weather today, no joke. I am sitting here in my UGG boots and it is 81 degrees in my office. I want to start taking off clothes, but it is socially unacceptable. Hey, I like this. Oh, I'm gonna die. I got a sweater on. I have jeans on. I have on my UGG boots. I mean, bad idea, Patty. No flip-flops today.
One more question, Patty. Sorry.
It's just hot. Sorry. I see me turning red, so I thought I'd explain. I'm not embarrassed.
I'm gonna start looking for a new tenant with this one pool house, but I recall you saying we can't charge application fee or pet deposit, or maybe I got that wrong. Are we still able to charge an application fee and put a pet deposit or include that under with the security deposit?
You can
And
ask
the
for
occupancy.
hold on. You can ask for a higher security deposit up to double the rent as a security deposit on an unfurnished unit until March 30th. After that, you're stuck to 1 month's rent. Got it? Okay, so right now you want to ask for double the rent as a security deposit because you want to fill up your buckets. Why the grunion are still running? Okay. So that answers that question. Until March 30th, you can do double the rent as a security deposit on a residential unfurnished dwelling. Starting 4/1, it is 1 month's rent. And for those of you that go, wait, I'm a single family homeowner and I don't have that pump. She's with a management company, you guys. I'm answering her. You have a single family, or
Yeah, I'm single family. I own the properties.
how
So
many do you own?
3.
That puts her over the threshold. You
Okay.
can only own 2.
Okay.
So if the landlord owns more than 2 rental properties, and that's by door and not by address. So if they own more than 2 or more rentals, it's maximum 1 month's rent.
Patty, in the past, it used to be 2 months rent for the deposit, but if you were in military service, it was 1 month. Now that they reduced it to 1 month, is there a change for military, or is it still 1 month for them too?
It starts April 1st and it's gonna be 1 month across the board for us. Independent landlords owning less than 2 doors can still ask for a higher security deposit, but
Okay.
even, and it's hard for us dealing with management companies, because I'm gonna tell you, for your management company, just stick to the 1 month. Because it's a much different playing field if it's a landlord, independent owner, only owning 1 or 2 rentals. We knew it was coming, and all I could say to you guys is I watched that one for almost a year before it turned into law. I've really been watching that one because I was like, oh man, fill up your buckets. They don't run forever. And then what was the other question you asked me? Not just about security deposits, it was
Yeah,
something else about the pool.
I think you said that in the lease agreement we can't put, if they have extra occupants, we were able to charge 100 per person, and then can we still charge application fee, and then something along the lines with the pet deposit if they want to have a pet.
Okay, if they want to have anything, the maximum deposit that you can collect is 2 times the amount of your rent. Okay? So whether you call it a key deposit, a pet deposit, a property deposit, a pool deposit, a poodle deposit, I don't care. What it means is it's refundable because you say deposit. So on a refundable deposit, the maximum allowed to take by law is 2 times until March 30th. And the reason I keep saying that is the rules change April Fool's Day. It doesn't mean you can do it on April Fool's Day, okay? Err on the side of caution, folks. So there we are with the deposit and what you can allow. As far as you taking a higher deposit for a pet, it falls under the deposit, okay? Because we're still calling that a deposit. You asked me something about pet rent. The answer to that is absolutely no more pet rent. Gone. Out the window, left the building. You can ask for a higher rent at inception, more than likely, if they have a pet. But if they're coming on midterm with a pet, you can't ask for the higher deposit. And let's face it, if you're taking double the rent at hello, you can't ask for another dime anyway. So it doesn't matter.
Patty, with regards to pet rent, I understand we shouldn't ask for it anymore, but what about the ones that already exist? Do we remove it?
Oh, did you mean you had a higher base rent?
Okay.
He understood my concept. In other words, I'm not going to answer that for you. What you're asking me for is full-on legal advice. And right now, what if they never complain about it? What if they never say a word? What if they move out in 5 years? Are we going to rip our hair out and lose our minds over base rent?
Gotcha.
If it happened at inception, it's base rent. If it didn't happen at inception, it's more than likely an illegal rent increase. So's an unauthorized occupant. Watch yourself, you guys. You know how we put that $150 fee in there as a deterrent so they won't move more people in? Stop doing that. And don't charge that money. Otherwise, you can't do your rent increase. Paying attention? Paying attention? No more unauthorized occupant fees. Here's the reality. If they're going to break your rules and move unauthorized people into your unit, why are you going to bust your butt to charge them additional money to keep them there when the chances of you having to reverse the illegal rent increase is very high because it wasn't a rent increase? it was an additional occupant increase, which isn't allowed because you're only allowed one increase every 12 months, right? Oh, okay. Now you guys are understanding. Those additional occupant fees is a deterrent. So somebody asked me, well, Patty, well, now what's the deterrent? The deterrent is if you bring in unauthorized occupants, I'm evicting you because you broke my rules. Oh, wait a minute. You want to add someone else to the contract and you're coming to me to add them to the contract? Okay, let's run their credit and see. And if they do qualify, guess what? I'm going to put you on a new lease term at a higher rent amount. Oh. That way I didn't illegally increase the rent. I started a new tenancy. This is new, right? There's a new person coming in. I don't know if we can do that in Larso. Larso does allow you a 10% increase. It's in Larso's ordinance that you can do a 10% increase for unauthorized occupants. But you need to know this, okay? When that unauthorized occupant moves out, you better reduce that 10% increase. Okay? And that's Larso's rules. So Larso has its own rules, remember? And they have something in their ordinance saying unauthorized occupants have to pay 10%. And it's in Larso's ordinance. I'd have to find it specifically to tell you, but then when the unauthorized occupant moves out, you have to stop charging that additional 10%. I hope that made sense. You know, it's kind of like when you charge pet rent, and then the pet dies, and they're like, we don't want to pay pet rent anymore. And you're like, oh, too bad. No, that's unethical. That's why we don't do pet rent. It's gone, okay? Pet rent has left the building. So has month-to-month fees. If anybody's still charging a month-to-month fee, you better stop. We can't do that anymore. It falls in line with the illegal rent increase, even though you wrote it in the lease. You're only allowed to increase rents once annually, right?
But
So if we charge an additional occupant fee, is that an illegal rent increase?
Patty, a month-to-month fee, we don't say it's a month-to-month fee, but what if we said it's $1,000 if you sign a 1-year lease, $1,050 for a 6-month lease, and $1,100 for month-to-month? Is that okay to do that?
That's not a month-to-month fee. That's a lease renewal negotiation.
So it's okay.
Well, look at it this way. As long as those fees you're charging aren't increased more than the annual rent increase.
Absolutely.
So if you're annually set at 3%, that's it. That's all you got.
So what
Okay.
we typically do, we would say the 3% increases if you do month to month, it's 2.5% if you do 6 months, and 2% if you do 1 year. So something of that sort.
Right. And we used to utilize that quite a bit in management so we could charge those month-to-month fees, but we did it a little different. We did it where if you want to be on a month-to-month instead of a 1-year term, we're charging you $300 per month to be on a month-to-month. That's what we did, you guys. You can't do this anymore. So
Right.
don't get any ideas and start thinking outside of the box right now today, because that ship left the building, okay? This is on the endangered species list. No joke, okay? Do not pass go here. But we were charging them a fee for being on a month-to-month rather on a term contract. We can't do that anymore. Okay, can't do that because look at it this way. If we're charging them a higher fee to be on a month-to-month contract, did we just illegally raise their rent? Yes, we did. So, and Ed, you know your theory you just threw at me like a renewal letter where you're going to do the 3% as the highest amount? If all you can do is 3%, just do a 3% at the highest amount and get it out. Be done with it. The lease renewal and negotiation for signing another 1 year, sometimes we're forced to sign another 1 year because it helps who? Not the landlord, the tenant. That's who a term helps, the tenant. That's why some municipalities require that you have a 1-year contract because it helps the tenant, not the landlord.
Right.
Look at it this way. You can't change the rules for a whole year. That's all that's about. Control. And on a 1 year, you don't have any. On a month-to-month, you can say bye-bye, bye-bye. Bye-bye. Oh, I'm gonna change your rules. Watch this. On a month to month, you can do that. On a term, you cannot. A term benefits a tenant. That's why some rent control cities now require 1-year lease term, renewable for another 1-year lease term. And they don't want their tenants on a month to month. That's the why behind it. All right, you guys, I'm literally melting in this room. I gotta go. We're at the hour anyway. So if anybody needs anything else, you guys all know how to hunt me down, find me. Melanie is diligently looking, I know, for that 10% increase for unauthorized occupants in Larceau. Don't do it right now because they're protected. Don't forget, okay? And you guys, I'm always here for you. If you need anything, feel free to give me a call. If you need a professional property manager to help assist you, I'm going to encourage you to call Ed over at Hawk Management because he's here today joining us. I didn't look to see if I have other people here joining us, which I probably should do just to be nice. I see a couple in here that do management, but not in the LA City area. I see my Roadrunner girls on here. Hi, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. If there's what's Ed's phone number? Ed, pop it out. He's already smiling. He's already on it. He's smiling. So Ed covers pretty much LA County area without going into a lot of depths and breadth. And that's really good for somebody that has property in LA. And let me say this, okay? If you're an owner and you're out there searching for your next management company, I have a list of questions for you to ask them, okay? They're good questions. Like, when do I get paid? Who gets to keep the late fees? I have good questions, okay? And Ed's nodding his head. Yeah, these are good questions. They're going to ask you questions too. So watch yourself because I've trained Ed. We want to ask questions like, are you currently involved in any litigation? Have you gotten a call from Fair Housing in the last 6 months?
It's on our property questionnaire. And have to ask.
So
we have to answer.
we're asking questions back to you too for a reason.
We also ask, how long are you planning to keep the property? What are your plans? Are you planning to sell it?
Ed, get on it again. What is your website?
Oh, wow. Okay.
So what I'm trying to tell you is when you have a big, giant management company that covers all of California, how do their property managers know the rules in your neighborhood? When you're dealing with something as tricky as LA County and you have somebody like Ed that only deals with LA County, Ed, will you manage a property for me in San Bernardino? How about Riverside?
Unfortunately not.
He only covers a very tight-knit area, and he's an expert in that area. If you're in that area, that's the guy you want to call, not big corporate America that has 99 gazillion property managers, because how do you know the one that's going to cover your area knows your rules? That's most important.
I also know Patty.
I get that a lot. Oh, by the way, I know Patty.
Yeah.
But it's like my Roadrunner gals. They could manage property anywhere they wanted to, but they choose to stay in their own area where they're familiar with the rules. They're familiar with the courts. They're familiar with how the judges rule in their area. That's what you guys are after. Okay. You want the one that walks in and goes, "Good morning, Your Honor. How are you? Oh, by the way, it was nice seeing you at the golf course on Sunday." And
Another thing is, we don't
True.
always know the rules about
No.
every little tiny thing, but I know the keywords to look out for, and then it raises the flag. Oh, let me ask. Let me make sure I'm doing this correctly.
Yes. And just so I'm being even, Steven, if you have a property out in San Bernardino County, please contact my Roadrunner Realty girls. They'd be more than happy to help you because Ed won't.
It's just too far. I mean, it's not only the rules, it's just also
exactly. If it doesn't make sense, look at it this way. If there's a fire at your property and your property is in Riverside, you don't want Ed to be your manager.
Right.
Because it's going to take him 2.5 hours to drive out there in the event of an emergency. You want somebody in Riverside. So I hope that makes sense to you guys when you're out there shopping for a management company. And if you're on Widget's Way and you're learning about a management company on here, here's something I could tell you. If the management company's here on Widget's Way, it means they work with me, meaning when they have a problem or they run into something they've never had to deal with before, and let's face it, it happens to all of us, even me. They call me. They
I've been
call
in
me
the
and ask,
industry 22 years, 21, 22 years, and the laws are always evolving. There's always something, you're dealing with people, so there's always going to be something weird that's happening that you've never encountered before.
and Ed will call me and say, hey, Patty, I got a weird one for you. And I'll be like, oh, I dealt with this on Tuesday. Here's how we handle that. And he'll be like, okay, no problem. But what I'm trying to tell you is if you're a landlord out there trying to figure out which management company to go, and you're here watching this on Widget's Way because you like what I have to say, I'm telling you, I'm connecting you with like-minded people. Okay, I'm trying. And although I will not manage your property, if you hire one of these management companies that work with me and there's a problem at your property, guess who they're gonna call?
Ghostbusters.
No, you don't call Ghostbusters.
Patty
You call
Widget.
me. You call me, and so does your team. Even about things that have nothing to do with property management. Agreed? Sometimes employment issues. You never know.
Yep.
You never know. Anything can
That's
happen in
amazing.
this crazy world.
Yeah. Oftentimes I call Patty, even sometimes I know the answer. I'm just like, I want to just hash it out and talk to her. And
Yes. And one of the biggest questions I get right now is, why can't I get a straight answer out of my attorney? Because your attorney doesn't know the answer either. This is all new. The rules are being heavily litigated. This is a new rule coming in. Your attorney's just trying to get you to err on the side of caution because they're not sure how this is going to go either. So when they're telling you, yeah, remove your late fees, they're doing that to try to protect you. Don't get so angry at them when they're telling you to do something specifically. It's to help your case, not hurt you.
right.
I know it's a pain in the butt sometimes, but they're asking you to do it for a reason. Don't get so upset with them. I hear it all day long. I'm not doing another notice. I had to tell someone on the phone today. Then good luck with your case. We're not going to take it. Wait, you're not going to help me? No, if you're not going to do a new notice and provide me with a good case, I'm not showing up in court on a bad one. No. So I get it. We're all a little frustrated. We've been doing this quite some time. Changing the rules, changing the rules, changing the rules, changing the rules. I mean, come on. How many assembly bills, Senate bills, and bureaucracy and bullshit did we get just through the COVID pandemic? And I couldn't tell you one of those assembly bills or Senate bills right now if my hair was on fire and I had to. I mean, I think we had 833 for a while. I think we had a 4-digit one, but I don't remember what, 1032 maybe? I don't know. I don't remember them. Once I don't need to remember something, I turn it off. It's kind of like an ex-husband. Oh, he gone. I don't know nothing about him anymore. All right, you guys have a wonderful weekend. If there's anything else I can do to help assist you, please let me know.
Thank you very much, Patty.
No
Thank you so
problem.
much, Patty.
I will, Jessica. All right, I will let you know on Thursday, my sisters.
Great. Thanks again. We
All
love you.
right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Take care, everyone.
Oh, I just wanted to ask you, but I think everyone's
It's fine. There's still more people on. I'm like, come on, everybody, get out. Here, let me see if I can fix it. I'm trying, girl.
okay. That's fine.
Okay. It's just my people now. Jay and Melanie are on here, so you're cool.
Okay.
What do you need?
It's nothing. I just I wanted to know because I've been doing this, I've been managing my properties since 2008, and it's something that I like and I want to get into and help manage like my families and friends. But I did ask you if there is like, I guess you have to be a real estate agent to manage other people's properties. Is there anything else besides that?
You have to be a real estate agent working under a broker.
Oh,
Or
okay.
a broker directly to manage property for profit.
Okay. So,
Otherwise, you're practicing real estate without a license.
okay. And
To be a
there's
certified property manager, it's not what you think it is. It's a
Okay.
trade that comes after you're a licensed agent to be a certified property manager. And I
Yeah.
was going to go through the process because for me, it's just kind of a cakewalk because I've been doing it for so long, it just comes
Yeah.
natural to me. So I was going to do it, but I didn't want to spend the money. It was ludicrous. And I didn't feel like I was learning anything. To be a certified property manager, you just have to cross all your T's, dot all your I's. No, I'm sure I could pass the exam right now. The problem for me was I didn't want to spend the money. I didn't see the risk versus the reward. Usually you see certified property managers in commercial real estate so much,
Yeah.
not so much residential. And all that is a title to get you one niche. I couldn't see spending the money to become a certified property manager for my career.
Yeah.
But I'm a lead-based paint certified renovator from the Environmental Protection Agency, and I hold more credentials behind my last name than alphabet soup. That's just not one I wanted and I had no reason for it.
Yeah.
I learned enough about commercial to know that I didn't want to do commercial completely or full-time, that I wanted to stick with the residential because commercial's boring.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's why, I mean, I always say no because of the liability. I don't want to be responsible. Yeah, so, but I'm like, okay, let me see how I can get a license, but I don't know.
It's really easy to get your real estate license. Don't think that it's difficult.
Okay, it's just tests. I'm not good at test taking. I don't know. I don't.
There's
You have to,
honestly, there's only one test you need to take, and that's the state exam. And if you have
Okay.
prepared yourself and you're mentally prepared, and this is really something you want to do, it will come easy to you because you will be interested in learning what you need to know to become an agent.
Okay, okay, the reason I say that is because I tried to do the loan officer, so I took that test.
Oh,
And
hell no.
yeah, I failed it. And I'm like, okay, I answer the questions based on how like what I would do, and everything scenario based. And I hate questions with scenarios because
They don't want you to answer what you would do
Yeah.
if you were working through it. They want you book smart.
Yeah.
So it's not practical knowledge to get your real estate license or your broker's license. It's what they want you to know. But let me tell you, what they want you to know to pass that exam versus what happens in real life are not the same. They
Yeah.
wrote those exams back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that being said, you have to study on how to pass their test, but then
Okay.
forget what you know because practical knowledge is not the same.
Okay.
So it's garbage. And if you can accept that for what it is, it'll be just fine.
Okay, then yeah, I think I'm gonna consider it because I do like it and I love joining every Wednesday. I look forward to it. It's so
Well,
fun.
sometimes you learn about other people's problems, like today that you learned that a little old lady had her house held hostage against her.
Yeah.
For 11 months, the tenant wasn't living there, but wouldn't give her the key and told her she couldn't come in.
I know it's crazy. So yeah.
No
Thanks, Patty. I appreciate it. So
worries. You have a great day.
you too. Bye.
Bye.